Hi, one and all. I'm myself Ramesh, working as assistant professor, Department of Information Technology at St. Martin Engineering College. To now, we are discussing about OOPS concept. What is OOPS concept? Okay, before we are discussing OOPS concept, we know the difference between structured programming and then OOPS concept. Next one is basic terminology in OOPS concept, and then what are the importance of OOPS concept and the design principles of OOPS concept. Okay, next one is object oriented programming languages. Now these are the topics we are discussing now. Okay, what is that? Functional programming, that is structured programming. Structured programming is always comes using the functions. Okay, if function is divided into the smaller modules. Okay, in the each modules is have own data and functions. Okay, if each and modules have their own data and functions, they are into the functions. Okay, these are the structured programming working like we have a main program is using for function, n number of functions we are using for the structured programming. Okay, each function we have data and attributes and functions. Okay, for in this structured program we are using the global data. Okay, for that one we are using that global data. In this global data we are using for that one, we are using that those data and functions we are using that one. Okay, in this data and functions, in main data will we have to open that one. Okay, in this main data, in each functions have data and functions. Okay, in this each attributes and functions working as a main program. Okay, we have to n number of functions we have to do, means we have to write n functions. Okay, first main program. Okay, in this main program we have to initialize the global data. In this global data we have to mention. Okay, for example here function 1 is there, function 2 is there. Okay, in this function we have data we have to initialize. Okay, here also we have data we have. First we have to run at the time within the function we have to what are the data, maybe the process we have to do the process. Okay, in this function we are declaring variables and then process what we are doing the process we are done. Okay, in this data and process we can execute, but we have to in this global data we have to access. Okay, how? Because outside the function we can access the data and function. This is the structured programming. Okay, next one is object programming. What is object programming? In object programming only for the entity, that is called object, real time world entity we are using the object oriented concept. Okay, in object oriented programming language is the everything is represented as an object. What is object? In real time world we are using what are the things we are saw, that is comes to the object. Okay, in this object is purely oriented object oriented programming language. Okay, which can contains also in the form of data. Okay, in the form of data in the programming language by the attributes and then properties. Okay, and then code format in programming like that, methods and functions. Methods are functions we are using in the programming language. Okay, in this object oriented everything we are considered as an object, that is called attributes and properties. Okay, in this object have both data and functions. In structured programming we have a functions, we have the data, we are doing the functions processing under the functions. Here we are object we are creating, within the object we have data and functions. In this data and functions we have the same class have the same data elements and functions we have. Okay, in these objects what are the data? Okay, what are the data we see? For example, this is object 1 have data and functions. In these data and functions we are using this process. This is object 1. Next one is object 2 also have data and functions we have. Okay, in this object 3 we have data and functions. Okay, we are considered as a one object. What are the data? Now object oriented programming. What is object oriented programming? In we have considered in object oriented programming language everything we can consider as a object. What is object? Object have own data and functions. Okay, what are the data about that object and then functions. Okay, for example for that one we are considered that one. Okay, what is basic terminology we have to see. Okay, what is object? Real world entity, usually a person, place or thing. Okay, it's called a like noun. Okay, in this object real world entity what are the things? For example car is there. Car is an one object. It's have entity. Okay. It's have next one is attribute. What is attribute? Attribute means data. Okay. Description of object in a class. That is called attribute. Next one is function. Function is an action performed by an object. It's called, maybe it's we called as a verb also. Next one is class. Class is the collection of object. Okay. If class is a collection of object is called class. It is a logical entity. Okay. Now, for example, if you are taking about one car. Okay. Car is an object. We consider object car is an one object. It have data. What data car have? The data about car have design and then registration, models, everything comes to the data. Okay. Next one is function. What is function? What are the functions performed by the car? Okay. In that car we have to forward direction, driving, for running, for forward, back, start, forward direction, backward, brake and stop. Okay. These are the functions we are done in the function in the object. Okay. First one is object. What is object? Is a real world entity like a car. Like the car have some data, some attributes. What are those? Maybe the design, color, everything comes to the attributes. Okay. What are the functions we are running the car? That's the functions we are performed. Okay. Next one is class. Class is the collection of object. Class is a collection of object. Okay. We are considering the everything is a one class, a single class have, we can create the more number of objects. That is called object. Okay. Why we are using the OOPS concept? Okay. This is the save development in time. That is called reusability. Okay. First one is why we are using OOPS concept for reusability and then easily debugging. Okay. Reusability means save development time and cost by reusing code. Once an object class is created, it can be used in the other applications. Okay. Next one is easier debugging. Okay. Easier debugging, classes can be tested independently. Reused objects have already been tested. Okay. That is called, we have object oriented program is the machine independent programming language. We can use that one. Okay. That's why it is the major advantages we are using. Why? Because of we are using that one OOPS concept. Next one is what are the design principles of OOPS. Okay. OOPS means we have a 4. Majorly we know that what is class, what is object. Object is a collection of classes. Object have collection of classes. Okay. We have inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction and encapsulations. Okay. These are the things we are majorly considering the OOPS principle. Okay. First one is what is encapsulation. What is encapsulation? Wrapping up of data. Wrapping up of data under the single unit. Okay. We have an object. In this object we have a, about that object we have data and then functions. Okay. We are making into a single entity. Okay. That is called encapsulation. Like for example, in capsule is the inside some medicines they are put. Okay. In this medicine we are in the encapsulator. That is called encapsule. Okay. Wrapping up of data under a single unit. It is the mechanism that binds together the code and the data in manipulates. Okay. Also known as the data hiding. Encapsulation we are also known as data hiding because we don't know, because the inside the entity we don't know what are the data, what are the functions they are done. Attributes, that is data hiding. For example, capsule is there, inside which medicine is there we don't know. That's why we called as a data hiding. Encapsulation is a data hiding. Only object methods can modify information is the object. In these methods, that is the functions. Okay. In these functions we can modify. We can modify the methods, can modify information in the object. Example, ATM machine can only update accounts of one person or objects only. Okay. In ATM machine we are withdraw the money, withdraw the money. But the ATM machine only update the how many balance in our account. That is only possible. Other than that, the information, anything will be not updated. That's only for the ATM update our accounts only. Next one is abstraction. What is abstraction? Hiding internal implementation and showing functionality only to the user is known as abstraction. hiding internal implementation and doesn't show the functionality inside what are the things happened in the process. That is called abstraction. This is we can together, we can generate, we can together only for the needed information, leave the another information. What are the things we need, we can collect and say, we can hold it and then leave the other things. Okay, that is called abstraction. Abstraction to this. Next one is design, produce and describe so that it can be easily used without knowing the details of how it works. Okay, inside what are things, what are the process happened, we don't know. That is called how it works, we don't know. It's a example is phone call, we don't know the internal process. Okay, we are using phone, how we are calling someone, we are receiving a call, but we don't know how the process is, how call to other person, we are dialing numbers, we call to someone, how the what are the process is going on, how they are coming going, that's we don't know. That's why we know only, we are collecting the needed information, we leave the other things. That is called abstraction topic. Next one is polymorphism. What is polymorphism? If one task is performed in different ways, it is known as polymorphism. We are doing one process in different manner, different styles, everything comes to the polymorphism. If one task is performed in different ways, in come to the program, everything comes to the functions. The functions, what are the things, what are the functions? If we have a function, we have n number of function with the single name, that comes to the polymorphism. With by how we have varying that, because of the parameters only. In polymorphism is function is also called a function. In this multiple polymorphism means different things we are done at a time, that is called polymorphism. In this polymorphism, in our OOPS concept, we are using that polymorphism in different functions. The different functions have the same name but different parameters, with parameters, without parameters, single parameters, double in two, 3 parameters, like that we are using. We can vary that one, but the same is same name, function name is same name. For example, to convince the customer differently to draw something, for example shapes. If we are telling to someone to draw the shapes, okay, that shapes is different. What are the shapes we are doing? Triangle, rectangle, something we have to tell. At the time they are doing that different, they are drawing the different shapes, but we are instruction is same. Okay, that is called polymorphism. We have 2 types of polymorphism. In these 2 types, first one is function overloading, next one is function overwriting. Okay, first one is function overloading. More than one function share the same name with the different parameters in a class, that is called function overloading. Before what I told, we have a n number of functions with the same name, that is the more than one function share the same name with the different parameters in a class, that is called overloading. Okay, one name, more than one name, that is called overloading. Next one is return type of these methods cannot be same, because of we are doing different operations. Why we are same operation we are not done in the all the modules or the functions, that's why we are different operations we are doing, that's why different answers will come, different returning values will show. That's why the varying the one function to another types, that the return type of these methods cannot be same for the every methods. Next one is, it is known as compile time polymorphism. Because of compile time polymorphism, we are calling our program, at the time we don't know, that's why we don't know what we are writing the program, at the time what are the things happened, what are the functions we called, that's why we are know about the compile time polymorphism only, because of the parameters varying that one, that is called compile time polymorphism. Next one is function overriding. We know that overloading. Now overriding means where the function is the child has the same name, return type and parameter as it parent class. Okay, we have a parent class. In next inheritance we will see what is parent class, what is child class, we will discuss. But we have 2 classes, one parent class, one child class, but we are accessing that one Now, what are the return type? What are the values returned that is different from parent class to child class? That will be varied. That's we called as overriding. Okay, where the function in the child class has the same name, return type and parameters in parent class. That is the overriding. Next one is the child class provides the implementation in the method already written. Okay, it is known as runtime polymorphism because of we are in the parameter means in the compile time. Now we are runtime means runtime only. We know that what is the result, what are the calculation was done in the parent class, depending upon them, the child class will execute. Child class return value is there. That's why we called as a runtime polymorphism. Next one is what is inheritance? What is inheritance? To inherit the features from one class to another class. Which one class is allowed to inherit the features, fields and methods of another class. Okay. Classes with the properties in common can be grouped so that their common properties are only defined one. Because of we have a classes, we have one class, we have a data, we have a functions. What we outside the class we can't access the particular class data and functions, but inheritance means we can access. In structured programming, we have a n number of functions. We can call the functions. We can execute the functions. But outside the main program, it's not possible to access the particular functions or the process. But in OOPS concept, in inheritance particularly, we can access the particular classes functions. We can access possible is there. But how it's possible? We can call the superclasses inherits attributes and methods to the subclass. Okay. In this inherit all its a superclass attributes and methods besides having its own unique attributes and methods. We have two classes. One is superclass, next one is subclass. Superclass called as a parent class, subclass is the child class. In this superclass, as a parent class have own attributes and methods. That will be executed automatically. We have a subclass, that is the child class. In this child class, we have a own attributes and functions, but we can also access subclass, that is the parent, that is the child class is possible to access the parent class data and function is possible. That's we called. That is the main advantage of the inheritance. In inheritance, we have 5 types. We have 5 types: single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, multiple inheritance, and then hybrid inheritance. Okay. First one is single inheritance. What is single inheritance? Before I told, if for example class A is there, class B is there. That is the parent class. That is the base child class. We can access the both data and functions by the subclass, that is the child class. We can access is possible. For example, we can access the data. For example, we can access the data. This one. How it's possible? For example, class furniture is there. Okay. In this furniture, we can create furniture. Furniture is a one class. In this furniture class, we have a own data and functions. Like maybe the color, maybe cost. We have a color, cost, we have something, we have a data. Okay. One more is function. Okay. In this function means what are the furnitures available, what are the functions, maybe the chair, table, everything comes to the functions. We can sitting, we can repair, comes to the functions. These are the datas and then functions. We can access the chairs, table, repair is the function. That is the one more class. Okay. In this one more class, we can access. we are using for here display or purchasing. Here purchasing everything comes to the here. We can use this, we can call, we can buy this, we can buy the charts tables, everything comes here. Next one is multi inheritance, multi level inheritance. Next one is multi level inheritance. We can level two or more levels we can execute, we can inherit the data and functions. Multi level inheritance, multi level inheritance have, for example, more than two classes. For example, class A, class B, class C. In this class A have own data and attributes, in this B also have own data and attributes, in C also have own data and attributes. What will be happen? We can access A attributes and data from A to B. One more, we can access B data and functions from B to C also. What is that multi-level inheritance concept use? Okay, we can in this C child class we can access both A and B classes own data and attributes. That is the multi-level inheritance. Okay, in this multi-level inheritance we can use, we are writing the code, we are writing the classes. For example, class we can write like furniture, we can draw that. Before we are telling na, draw the shapes. Okay, display means we can display the we are calling to display function, we can display for any shapes, triangle shapes, circular, hexagon, pentagon, we can display the those shapes. That's the comes to the multi-level inheritance. Okay, next one is hierarchical inheritance. In this hierarchical inheritance, we know maximum, we are all known easily. In this, for example, vehicle is there. Vehicle, we have a automobile, motorcycle, and then bus. These are the three sub inherited classes. In this automobile, we have sedan, sports car, and then motorcycle we have no partition. Buses have luxury buses and then school buses. Motorcycle means two wheelers, so comes to that one. What properties does each vehicle inherit from the type of vehicles above in the diagram? First one is superclass. In this vehicle we have a three subclasses. In these three subclasses we have automobiles and buses have two more subclasses. These are the comes to the inheritance. Like multi-level, we have only go for the only one forward direction. In this hierarchical inheritance, we have hierarchical level, step level 1, 0, 1, 2, we can go for that one. How many levels we can go? We can separate that one. Superclass we have own data and functions. In this own data and function have automobiles. In this automobile data and functions, we can access the both vehicle also, and then motorcycle also, bus also. In this sedan, a sports car have own data and functions. In this both the data and functions, we can also have automobiles and then vehicle. Okay, but in this motorcycle doesn't have, but sports car, automobiles and vehicles we have. In this luxury buses, school buses also have the bus properties, bus data and then corresponding functions attributes we have. We can access the vehicle also. We can access the different levels. We need the sports car oriented data and attributes we are accessing. In this automobiles also we are accessing that one. That is comes to the hierarchical inheritance. Next one is multiple inheritance. What is multiple inheritance? In this multiple inheritance, if you are seeing this one, you know easily understand. For this is the A class, that is the B class. This is the C class. Multiple inheritance. What is multiple inheritance? In this multiple inheritance, we have to know how to access the different classes, data and functions by the new class, inherited C class. For example, for you have a class have their own data and functions. B class also have own data and functions. In this C class also have own data and functions. Okay, but using the multiple inheritance, we can access both A class and B class data and attributes with the own data and attributes we can access, we can process, we can execute the class object in the C class. This is the multiple inheritance. For example, in this multiple inheritance, we have a different classes. For example, furniture is there, drawing shape is there, but we can in this furniture we can add the images, we can add the shapes, different styles of furnitures. We are we are making the new type of furnitures. On that one, we can use this in this add functions for this C, and then in this shapes oriented furnitures we are made in the C classes. That is called multiple inheritance. Next one is hybrid inheritance. What is hybrid inheritance? We know that what is hybrid, everything. In this inheritance we have a, we can see this is the base class. There is the base class. We can get this is, these two are the derived class. What is A class? This is the parent class. We have a parent. This parent A class have own data and functions. In this own data and functions, we have two inherited class from A. In this B have own data and functions, and then A data and functions also will access. In this C class also we have a different his own data and functions. This one also access the class A data and functions. Finally, we can access both the data, but B and C have own data and functions. That is different from B class and C class. But both B and C can access the data and functions from A class. What is the D? This is the hybrid inheritance. This is the hybrid inheritance. In this D we have, D also have own data and attributes. But in this data and attributes, D access both B and C. For B own data and functions and C data and functions accessed by the D. In this D have own data and function. This D class access both B and C data and functions, and then also A. This is the hybrid inheritance. In this hybrid inheritance, but B and C have different data and functions, but I can access the A. What is the inheritance? What is the hybrid inheritance? In this hybrid inheritance, we have all the possible functions we are writing in the program code we can access. That is the major advantage of the hybrid inheritance. This is own data and functions. This is also own data, different data and functions. This is function is different. This function is different. This function is, but D can access the all the functions. That is called the hybrid inheritance. Okay, this is the four major principles designs to the object oriented concept. In this object oriented programming language, we are using this major abstraction, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and then four things. Okay, next one is object oriented programming language. Why? We are the languages. What is that? That is pure object oriented languages, Smalltalk, Eiffel, Act, and Java. This is the programming language, pure object oriented programming languages. Next one is the hybrid, means what is this? We know that C++, Objective, and Objective Pascal. Before comes to the Pascal, next one is C. That is the next one is Turbo C++, comes to the programming language. Now I explain one small program we can easily understand. What is that? By using the object oriented programming language in Java. That is, we can create one class. We can create the one class that is called a vehicle. Class vehicle, we can create one main class, have one data and then functions. In this we can display the functions, display the vehicles. One more we can create one more, that is called class. We can access the functions also, and then for example we can for example we can display in this vehicle. We have two we can create one more functions we have. Function is two-wheeler. Two-wheeler have own datas processing some functions about two-wheeler. What is two-wheeler type? How is the speed? How much mileage? Everything comes to the two-wheeler type. One more we can action. We can use the function as four-wheeler. This is also comes to the own data and functions. In this function also we have a four-wheeler is a sports car, normal car, speed, something we can mention this in this four-wheeler. This two-wheeler have normal and sports. Here also sports vehicle is there. Mileage comes to everything comes to the vehicle. Okay. Now we have a main function. In this main function we can create one object. We can create the object. We can call the all the functions. We can create all the functions by object dot class name. Object dot class. We can create the first. We can create the object. We can create the object. Why? Because in object oriented programming language we are purely for the object. Object is an entity. We know that one. That object we are mainly for using for the represent only for the object. What is object? Object represents that data and functions. That's why we are creating that one object. By how we can access object dot class. We can creating the object that is called object dot vehicle. Okay, we can access this vehicle functions for both two-wheeler and four-wheeler. For example, one more thing we can one more class we are created. Class this is for example class 1. One more is class 2. Okay, in this class 1, class 2, we know what is object? Collection of class is a collection of object. We can create a number of object. We can create a number of objects for the one class. This you can easily understand this one. One more I will show one short video. You can easily understand about the OOPS concept. In this OOPS concept, you can easily understand what is OOPS concept. It represents the object. Represents the object. What is object? What object is a object. Anytime we can state and behavior is known as an object. Object can be defined as an instance in a class. That is called object. That is called object. Next one is class. What is class? We can that is the one pen is there. Pen is one object. Two-wheeler is one object, and table is the one object. What are the behaviors? What are the behavior? We can mention that object. What is how this? For example, table is there. Table have what are the material? What is that material? What are the things they are using? Which color? How making? Everything comes to the data. How we are using the table? If using the table, which type we are using, and then the repair, everything comes to the object. That is the vehicle. We can making companies, everything comes to the data. How we are driving, stopping, brake, everything comes to the function. Next one is class. What is class? Class is a collection of object. It comes to the for this one. Okay. In this class doesn't consume any space. For example, in this classes doesn't consume any space for that classes. Next one is inheritance. Inheritance comes to, we are briefly know that one. Inheritance comes to that everything we are inherited from the parent to child. We can comes to the what are the how the characteristics. Okay, we have some habits. Behavior comes from our parents, grandfathers. That comes to the inheritance of that one. Next one is used the runtime polymorphism. We also called as a runtime polymorphism. Next one is we can polymorphism. In this polymorphism, we can performing the different ways. We can we are done same thing for the different ways. What are the things? For example, in this dog, bow bow will do, and then man also we are talking, and then cat is meow. This, but they are the same. The behavior is same. Okay, the behavior is same, but that is a function. How they are behave, what is they behave, what is their pronouns, that is different. That tells about this polymorphism. To speak something, for example, cat speaks meow, like that I told. Next one is abstract. What is abstract? We can abstract, sorry, we can abstract the needed things. Okay, in the hiding internal detail and showing the functionality is known as the abstraction. For example, phone call, we don't know the internal processing will be done, everything we don't know, but we are calling to someone, we can receiving the call, sending call, we can done this. That talks about that abstraction. Next one is encapsulation. Encapsulation means we can encapsulate the needed things in the one thing. We can encapsulate it. For an object, we can, for our own object, we have a data and functions. We can encapsulate it into a single entity. That talks about the encapsulation.